Speaker, President Jacob Zuma told us during the State of the Nation address on 14 February 2013 that government was waging war against corruption. But just minutes before, he had welcomed special and distinguished guests, which included none other than Atul Gupta, who was sitting of all places in the presidential box. The president did not hesitate to flaunt his close relationship with the Guptas right here under our noses in Parliament. That neatly illustrates, as the President likes to say, where the problem comes. Because the root cause of the problem, which led to Guptagate, is President Jacob Zuma. He is responsible for creating the culture of undue influence referred to in the investigation report. And that is why the President should be here today to account to Parliament rather than hiding away from us in the Union buildings. When the Jet Airways Airbus landed at Air Force Base Waterkloof on the 30th of April 2013, it triggered a massive political fallout. Years of frustration with President Zuma's sugar daddies, including the sheikhs, the Reddys, and the Guptas who make up Zuma Inc., exploded. Something snapped inside the ruling party, and even Gwede, Don't Upset Ministers Mantashe, was moved to issue a public statement condemning Guptagate. With the situation spinning out of control, the Honourable Jeff Radebe, the Damage Control Officer-in-Chief, was brought in to contain the political fallout. It came as no surprise, therefore, that the investigation effectively exonerated President Zuma and members of his cabinet. The minister was at pains to point out that ministers were not involved in this matter. Well, the fact is nobody believes that not one minister knew anything about 3 fixed-wing aircraft, 7 helicopters, 88 vehicles, and 490 personnel supporting a private function from Air Force Base Waterkloof. The minister then went on to make an extraordinary statement that ministers were not required to issue any instructions, and indeed did not issue any instructions. But had clear instructions been issued, there would have been no Guptagate. The Minister of Defence received a request from the Gupta family to use Air Force Base Waterkloof, and to her credit, the minister turned down that request. But then the minister failed to inform the Secretary of Defence and the Chief of the Defence Force of her decision. We have to ask, in what kind of country does a private individual telephone a minister and request landing rights at a strategic military base? And we also have to ask ourselves, in what kind of country does a minister turn down such a request and then not officially communicate the decisions to senior officials in her department? The minister evidently needs to be reminded that she runs a State Department which is responsible for the defense of this country, not a spaza shop. Had the minister taken action and issued clear instructions, the Jet Airways Airbus would never have landed at Air Force Base Waterkloof, and there would have been no Guptagate scandal. There is, Speaker, a widely held perception that when the Guptas say jump, the President says how high. So why are we surprised then when the Guptas said jump, some senior officials said how high? We cannot sit back and allow ministers to get off the hook by hanging out a few rogue officials to dry. Ministerial heads must roll. And that is why we have requested the Public Protector to conduct an independent investigation into Guptagate. We need to know what the President knew, when the President knew it, and what he did about it. And we need to know what ministers knew, and when they knew it, and what they did about it. Because in the end, ministers are responsible and ministers must be held accountable. If the minister was really serious about ensuring that such a situation never happens again, then the final report of the investigation should have read something like this. Name: Honourable Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Position: Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. Charge: incompetence. Finding: the minister was negligent in not communicating her decision to deny a request from the Gupta family to use Air Force Base Waterkloof. Recommendation: fire. But in the end, if we really want to ensure that something like this never happens again, then we have to come together in our thousands. We have to come together in our tens of thousands. We have to come together in our millions. And we have to together fire President Jacob Zuma on Election Day in 2014. I thank you.
News that moves. eNCA.com.